Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 549, recorded live on Saturday, February 16th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Arkat.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing?
A little tired, but I am no longer buried in snow, so this is fantastic.
I was going to ask you about that.
I'm in the lowlands, so snow was not that big a deal around here. But I have friends that are, living in the foothills and the mountains that, the snow was literally burying their cars. It was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, but most of us are fine. For those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, I am a native of Seattle who had a large snowstorm. Actually, it was a series of snowstorms. This is not why I was not hosting last week. I was actually working through the snowstorm, which was a barrel of laughs and then some. Yeah, Seattle, not built for snow, not prepared for snow, all that fun stuff. On the DDO side of things, the screenshot of the week is Nathim dances under the moon in the 402nd screenshot of the week. Congratulations, Psycho Blonde, for sending in this week's screenshot. I'm thinking storm horns.
Yeah, I think that looks very storm horns like with the flowers and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what makes me think it's storm horns is the flowers and stuff. So, we like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website, DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyberears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show should be next Saturday. You can subscribe by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, touch a little bit on game and community news. There's a little bit, not a ton, but we could talk about a little bit. We also have part 3 of our past life prioritization heroic lives topic. So I'll wrap that up today. Not sure what we'll do next. Might do something special for 550, or I don't know. I might just completely ignore it. We'll see what happens. I'm still hoping to. I want to do a whole show on the preacher's letter, but it hasn't dropped yet, and we'll talk about that.
Right.
But, before we get into game news, special thanks to the damsels of DDO for hosting last week. It was very kind of them to kind of give me the weekend off and not have to worry about that with all of the work I was doing. So thanks, ladies. Nice job. Despite their attempts to do such a horrible job as to not have me invite them back, they have failed miserably. I will absolutely invite them back. So no fear.
That'll teach them.
Yeah, right. They do a great job, and it's fun to have a different voice. And, there will probably be more guest hosting this year as I try to manage my own time commitments with DDOcast and stuff like that as well. I know someone in one of our made a comment or asked a question last week about having more in-depth time breakdowns in the notes. That's just a function of time. I have X amount of time that I can put towards the show, and getting more in-depth, particularly talking about heroic lives and putting a timestamp on each heroic life. I don't have that half an hour more to do that, unfortunately. But
Sure.
If you are watching the show and you would like to provide this information for others, have at it. That'd be fantastic. Not stopping you.
Nothing illegal about doing that.
Yeah, right. Feel free to help out with the show. It'd be great. Anyways, yeah, so that's enough rambling on. Let's talk about game news. That's what everyone wants to hear about, right? Producer's letter. We briefly just touched on this just a minute ago. It's not out yet. So why is it not out yet? Well, the short answer is that it's written. It has to get approved by the various entities, and that process is still underway. That is the more lengthy part of the process. I don't actually know all of who that is supposed to be, but I'm going to guess that it includes Standing Stone Games, the developers of Standing Stone Games,
Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Probably as a whole, and possibly also as their D&D team. I don't know. There's probably a few people there that need to look at it.
The
There's probably
producers, maybe. I mean,
Daybreak
Daybreak. Yeah,
may need
yeah,
to look at it. I mean, there's a lot of
yeah.
entities that are involved with this kind of stuff, so um, they are hoping to have that out probably with the anniversary event. Which, hey, check this out. It's expected to start on or around February 26th and run through March 13th. I mean that around. Final dates will be announced soon, but that's kind of what they're looking at doing there. So that's kind of what we can perhaps expect in that regards. So there you go. Update 41.3. The Dams does a great job reading the release notes. Thank you again, ladies. I just want to touch on a couple ones here and just kind of give a broader, more information, my thoughts, that kind of stuff. Because I know everyone was asking, what are Patrick's thoughts on all these? So here you go. See, I'm such a nice guy. Minimum level to purchase and use a Ruby Eye augment is now level 1. Those are the augments that scale based on the level of the weapon.
Right.
I don't know. I think they were probably around I don't actually know where they were. But now you can do them at level 1. I don't necessarily know why you'd want to use 1 in that regards, but you can.
Yeah, you're not going to get much damage.
Yeah, right.
From those at level 1. So.
But hey, maybe you want to use one. That's fine. I mean, the meteoric one wouldn't be the worst one in the world because it has the trip thing involved with it, which might be kind of nice at lower levels if you're going to be doing a bunch of TRs. Hey, this starts to make a little bit more sense. I'm still hoping that they will update and reintroduce the ones from. Remember the old ones that were like a couple different things on from Devil Assault? They were like good and this other thing, and silver, or good and.
Oh, yeah. The vampire one from Maybar.
No, not that one.
That one.
No, it was. They had a time limit on them too. It was like 100 game hours.
Oh, those old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I've kind of hoping they'd reintroduce some of those, right? And get those kind of back in the game because they were an interesting concept.
Sure. And all the augments, need to be worked on.
Which they've acknowledged.
Sure, but we've seen no progress towards doing it. Now, I guess they're doing a lot of work on Sharn and all that other stuff, but I mean, they keep saying this is something we'd like to get to, but they never get to it.
I have a feeling, well, because that's SSG has different devs that do kind of different things, right?
Sure.
And there's a lot of overlap too. I think Steelstar kind of goes around in circles, doing class work, engineering work. Occasionally he does quest stuff. Whereas I think Torque definitely does. I mean, he did work on the druids. He did killing time. Like he works on. I mean, that was a long time ago. Yes.
Oh yeah. But he does dungeons.
He does a bunch of stuff, and there's other ones who I think primarily focus on quests and people who primarily focus on art, assets, and stuff like that. I have a feeling that because they've had a really heavy focus on classes of late. So I think that's probably using up more of the time of the people that could actually do augments. Theorizing,
sure.
No one's told me anything. But the one thing I would really like to see short term is, how they have the sentient toolkit destroyer?
Yes.
I would love to see one of those for augments.
For augment destroyer, absolutely.
Buy some plat, toast an augment.
Yeah.
My primary reason for saying this is you can't feed an augmented item to a sentient weapon.
Right.
And I have pulled so many of those dang priest torches with an augment of water breathing in them. I would love to just nuke that, feed it to the gem.
Yep.
But
yeah, and that's something that's been asked for almost since those augments came out. I mean, or since things like feeding sentient gems and so forth have come out. So no, that would be a good thing to add as well.
Continuing with the update 41.3 release notes, most monsters should no longer aggro through doors, except for things that can pass through doors, like Race. Monsters should no longer hear player footsteps or players using skills through walls and ceilings. Yay.
And there was much rejoicing from the stealth community.
Yes, unless you were trying to do framework.
Yeah. Oops.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah.
We'll get back to framework in a minute. Attacking a monster that has PRR no longer causes your damage values to display in yellow. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Boy,
How many times
really...
have you kind of like cycled through weapons? What is this?
Yeah, you're
DR?
trying to figure what does the DR? What breaks the DR here? I can't figure it out. Yeah.
I'm sure there's. I haven't actually noticed any like been able to say, oh, this guy used to be yellow, now he's orange. Because to be honest, I don't really pay that close attention. But boy, that's really nice information.
Sure. Now I know pretty much all of the DR, so I knew what was going on. But with new players, they we're trying to get them, more educated about, okay, devils, you need silver or good, or maybe silver and good. You're trying to get them to understand what usually breaks DR, but when they get that really cool item that does both, it's metalline and good, and it says, oh, it should work, but you see yellow numbers. I mean, it's like a total mind screw with them.
What's funny is I think I knew what was going on, but my brain automatically translated to, oh, they must have DR that's not bypassable.
Yeah.
PRR. D.
Well, sure, like a lot of the elementals do.
Yeah. Anyways, various changes have been made to the anniversary event, and new items have been added for the event. We don't know what they are yet. The event is not yet active. Hey, February 26th-ish. It's coming, so yeehaw. The base reward for the anniversary party ingredients is now 150% of your score, a 50% increase from previous years. Yay! Fewer runs. Hallelujah.
Sure.
No complaints there.
Now that the rose-tinted goggles aren't particularly, useful anymore.
I mean, that was cheesy, and you knew
it was very cheesy.
Changed.
And it was very cheesy, and it did need to be changed. I'm just pissed I didn't know about it until somebody said something, until Korthos said it, or somebody said it on the forums. Oh man.
Missed the boat on that one, did you?
Yes, I did. I bought one pair of those, and and just for the gimmick's sake,
kind of funny
to see what they did.
I love what they did. That was hilarious.
It was kind of interesting. Yeah.
My thing was I spent all my time farming for a Cobalt gem because I wanted to get a Cobalt Sentient gem.
Yep.
And once I got that, I was like, done, walking away.
I'm done. Yeah, I hear you.
I am not the person who can stay in the same quest ad nauseum. It is well established with my guild, and they will absolutely testify to this fact. But like 5 runs of the same quest, and I'm out. Like,
yeah, I can ransack the one quest over and over with different characters if there's something that I'm so hyperly focused on that I absolutely have to have. Oh, I'll do it.
My preference is to do like
times.
2 runs a day.
Yeah,
go do something else.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit sad, but I wanted to make sure we brought it out and highlighted it. A marker for Diddler's Graveyard designer Cicerin has been added to near the Gygax Memorial. Unfortunately, that's a designer who passed away. That's why they're doing that. Which I think this is a fantastic way of honoring that person. It's great that they did that. But it is kind of unfortunate. We did want to stop a moment and mention that.
Did you know who Cicerin was? I mean, I figured it was a dev, but I didn't know. I don't ever recall seeing them post in the DDO forums. So it took me for a minute or two to figure it out. But do you know who Cicerin was and what they did?
A dev?
I guess, but I mean,
I don't remember ever seeing them on. I don't remember ever seeing them commenting on the forums or anything.
Yeah, neither do I.
Like that. Fixed an issue where traps that hit each other could cause server issues.
I have no idea what that is.
Blades is the thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Defile the Justs.
Sure.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
That's my guess. I haven't run Defile the Just since this came out, but I'm hoping possibly maybe that's it. Be really nice. It is a
Yeah,
pretty
that would
laggy
be
spot.
nice.
See, Threads of Fate drop amount in the rate of legendary hunters raid has been increased by I think like 3.
3, yes.
Woohoo!
From 7 to 10. Yay. Good Lord.
Oh. In Killing Time, the debuff Storm Magic now appear in the debuff bar instead of the buff bar. It does. Yay. It's so much easier to find. What that debuff does, it reduces your MRR, which is really unfortunate because that raid is all about MRR. Like,
yes.
almost all of the damage.
Too much about MRR.
Yeah, that's a topic for another time. But
yeah,
and we've both talked about this on this show and on DDOCast Splat of this problem of having a bunch of attacks, particularly in Killing Time and Rite of the Storm out, that are reduced by MRR but are not evadable, which leaves a whole segment of the population. Someone was actually asking me what my favorite raid is now, and I would say, like, my answer was, well, there are things I really like about Killing Time, but I don't feel like I can say it's my favorite raid because of how punitive it is to an entire segment of builds.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. It just like RSO. I mean, it just seems like it's completely it's just a punishment for just deigning to step in. I mean, or having the temerity to step in. It's just,
yeah, it's a problem. But I have not checked in RSO if that same, because I think it's the same debuff, but I'm not positive. There might be a little bit another, but I'm hoping that it's also true in Riding the Storm out, which would be kind of nice. Additional work has been to prevent incorrect item loss during reincarnation. One of those things that they explicitly mentioned is additional logging of items has been added at the time a character talks to the Life Shaper. So this is work that they're doing to continue combating various issues with people losing items from reincarnation, which is a big deal.
It is.
Again, and I've stressed this before, this is a very small percentage chance that it can happen to you. So, personally, it's not something that I'm concerned about. Now, having said that, I understand if it happens to you, it's a big deal. I get that. Like, I'm not trying to minimize that. Losing all your stuff is a problem.
Sure.
Hopefully, they've taken some more steps to minimize that situation. There you go. The effects of Orange and Red Dungeon Alert have been adjusted. I believe this is the slow is less. Because if like on Red Alert, if you get hit, you can't move.
Right.
And I think they've toned that down a little bit, which is very nice.
Yeah, nobody's ever said anything to me, and I didn't see anything on the forums saying what exactly that is, so I'm clueless.
Yeah. Additional performance work has been done to address bard songs and client stirring when certain buffs conflicted. Yay. More effort to prevent us from putting the bard in the corner during the raid. Damage against a target is now properly increased when PRR or MRR is reduced to a negative number.
Oh boy. I guarantee you this will be nerfed.
You think?
They'll drop it to it'll never be a negative number, or the negative number might be capped, as it were, to negative 10% or something.
Because you're thinking it's applying to monsters?
It is definitely applying to monsters.
I was thinking the first thing I thought of when I read this was, oh boy, Killing Time's gonna hurt more.
Well, that may be, but I'm seeing all sorts of builds, in another form where I tend to observe, and they're talking about, okay, what do all these debuffing things, to reduce, PRR of the monsters, what stacks with what, and they're getting down to negative, to negative 70 on the monsters PRR and PRR 70%. So the amount of damage they're now doing with these, with certain builds is just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal what they're doing. So I guarantee you this will be nerfed to some extent.
But well, here's the other part about it, though. What's the investment with that? Because they have at times been very how should we put it? Like if they think the investment is worth the benefit, or the cost to benefit scenario is appropriate, then it's not a big deal.
Sure.
So that's when you start getting into those scenarios. That's why they, that's kind of why they said that they think that Assassinate working on a lot more things because it's a tier 5 ability. Like, that was kind of why they're going in that direction. Perhaps too many things, I might say. Not that my rogue is complaining right now, but so there's, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It would see. Someone in the chat is kind of mentioning that the vulnerability stuff that you can get would kind of produce similar results, which is true. You could easily see a scenario where they might kind of fudge that, make those do the same thing. Because I don't think they are currently.
Right.
So, I don't know. We'll kind of see where it goes. But I don't think that there is, particularly in a game where hit points can tend to be kind of inflated for challenge at some places. I'm not, and people who are probably saying, "Oh, I can get negative, I can reduce their PRR and MRR by 70." Okay, sure. Those people are probably also running hard content, in Reaper, where you're already getting damages reduced. But I think it does open up more options, and I don't think that you're gonna see much of a problem here with like people running stuff on normal or hard, getting minus 70 PRR to a monster. One, it's gonna die so fast before you can probably get there anyways.
Sure.
So
sure.
I don't know. And of course, the flip side is they could just add more PRR and MRR to things.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the devs are super concerned about things that happen at normal or even hard level. It's the elite and the Reaper, I think, where they would have the most concerns.
Yeah. The last one I wanted to touch on, address an issue with turreted enemies that could cause performance issues. I believe what they mean by a turreted enemy is one that is kind of locked into place. They can't move.
Okay.
So, an example, like the dragon in Killing Time is turreted. It lands. It doesn't move anywhere. It just turns around. Vela does the same thing. Vela doesn't actually even really turn for the most part.
Nope.
But there's a lot of different places where there's monsters that are, they can't move from a spot.
Right.
Or not supposed to move from a spot. So
that makes sense. I couldn't think of what the hell that meant. I was thinking there was a monster in a turret somewhere.
The Abbot would be another one. The Abbot, quote, moves, but he just teleports between different turreted spots. So we might see some better performance there, which it can be kind of a laggy spot as well. So, all right, the release notes for the hotfix that was this week, update 41.3.1. So the DDO store, the racial action point tomes purchased from the DDO store are now bound to account instead of character. Yay! Although I don't believe you can buy them at the moment anymore.
Yeah, they're done. They were only on the store for like 3 days.
Yep. But fun that it was nice that they were there, and I appreciated that the cost to upgrade to a 2 was pretty cheap, so that was nice.
Very cheap, very reasonable. I was surprised.
So bonus if you had all the racial action points from previous expansions. So let's see. Players who earn enough favor to unlock a tier reward added in update 41.3 will not retroactively receive the reward. There have been some issues with that.
Some people aren't getting them.
So they'll keep working on that, I'm sure. Purple Dragon Knight favors now awarded at its proper tier.
Yay.
Tendon Slice now properly displays its enchantment on items. Hey, that's kind of fun. Framework. Hey, we mentioned this earlier. Minotaurs are now curious enough to open gates for strangers under certain conditions. Basically, we talked about how monsters no longer herd through doors and stuff. That created a problem in the fact that you couldn't get the front door of the framework to open by distracting the Minotaurs.
Minor inconvenience.
Yes. Their chieftain, however, has decided to no longer leave his keep. So I believe that means that you can still open the chieftain's door, but he will probably leash back to the keep. That's kind of my guess there.
Yeah.
Because you
Makes
could
sense.
actually pull him out and essentially not fight the other two bosses. Now, having said that, as someone who has done this quest the short way and gotten him to come out there, there's always a pile of minotaurs there that I'm dealing with, so I don't know if that's actually a bad thing. But anyways, also in Friends in Low Places, they fixed an issue with quest placement.
Yeah, this is a good one.
So
And
I had an
and
issue
it's
with
more
that,
than just in Friends in Low Places too, where this was a problem. One of the Kenneth challenges had a bunch of crests that you had to run around and get that were shielded, and if they were not shielded, then you could just go run and get them, and it would
Sure.
be really, really easy, and you could get all 5 or 6 stars, whatever it was that it allowed you to do.
Let's see. Bonus days. 20% heroic and epic XP boost now through February 18th. If you're wondering, February 18th is a holiday in the U.S. For President's Day. Yay, presidents. So that's why it's extended to there. They also extended the Midwinter Festival through February 18th as well. So
Yeah, I lost my wife to that. She's just trying to level. She's leveling tunes on Galanda and Kyber,
oh,
and
you mean the
I
heroic?
just
I thought
had
you
to
meant the
reset
Winter
her.
Festival.
No, God, no. She doesn't care about the Winter Festival. She wants that 20% extra experience.
Fair enough. See, store sales. Through the week, it's Adventure in Advance, so it's 20% off of select Adventure packs, Quest XP elixirs, through February 21st. Also, you can get a bouquet of flowers with the coupon code FLOWERS.
Oh,
And it'd be a good thing to get for your wife, right?
yeah, for Valentine's
Cover
Day.
Valentine's Day for you? Probably need to do a
Yes.
little bit more than that, but anyways, community news. The 321st Chronicle. Almundir is creating a new web-based quest tool. You can check that out. The comment. What magical device would be most useful if you were stuck on an island?
A bottle of myths, because I love Barovia.
I was going to say a teleportation device, but I mean, that almost seems a little too easy, right?
Well,
But,
somebody put in the mask of teleportation that you get from the Restless
sure. Yeah,
Isles.
yeah. It'd be good.
That's a good one.
I mean, if you want to be more practical, you could go with the so it's not really a DDO item, but there's a magic item in 3.5 that's like produces food constantly, like a spoon.
Oh, Merlin Spoon?
Yeah. I think there actually is a DDO version of it, and it gives like Hero's Feast.
Yeah, there is. No, it makes food that you can eat in a tavern to regenerate hit points.
Oh, is that what it does?
Yep. And
Interesting.
it's really, really crappy.
It's a neat concept, at least. I mean,
Oh, sure. No, it's a
yeah.
really cool thing to have. It was great when the cap was like, 10.
And
Way
you had to
back when
buy
the
that
thing
stuff to
You had to buy that
point.
stuff. Yeah, that's right. This was
true.
it was free fast hit point regeneration.
Yeah, it's true. Guild for the week. Legend on Kyber is the guild that is currently at level 111, closing in 112. They're one-time active guild with 90 plus players. Most of those players have moved on, and they're currently a small guild of about 5. They have just about every guild buff there is. They're seeking guild members that want it to be an established buffing guild to enjoy our buffs, but also continue to contribute to the guild XP that you get from just questing. If you're interested, please message Fizzmite, Fizzban, Physical, or Harper. Hey, one of those doesn't match the others there.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Broke the theme there.
Can it at least be Fizz Harper or something?
Something like that.
You can also reply to the Chronicle comment. So if you're looking for a guild, there you go. Fan site news. We got a shout out for episode 548. DDO players got a shout out for episode 210. Fridays on Ice had episode 114. Bard Life and Streaming with Even also had episodes, and Mickey's Delirium had a blog post for Raids Week 109. Let's see. Talking Shop, final weekend for Winter Games through February 18th. Korthos was also answering questions during the latest weekly lunchtime live streams. You can check that out as well. Let's see. DDO Players News also had episode 211 posted this weekend. And the Damsels, if you listen to this live, I can almost guarantee you I probably won't get the show published before this happens, but the Damsels are playing tonight, Saturday, February 16th. they have new times. Oh boy, can I remember this off the top of my head? I believe they play Saturday nights at I want to say 11 p.m.
It's really late. Yeah.
It's less late than it used to be.
Yeah, didn't they used to be on like 1 a.m. or something?
Yeah, midnight Eastern.
Okay.
Now, so no, it used to be 2 a.m. Eastern, so they moved it back. And then they will do the podcast the following week on Friday at midnight, or it's actually Sunday at midnight and Saturday at midnight, but it's just because of the way days work.
Right.
Let's just go with Saturday tonight, 11:59 p.m. It's the 12
Eastern time.
Yeah, it's Eastern time. Let's see, D&D Night on DDO stream. I think I mentioned this before. We're doing some kind of backlog work with collections and stuff. Hopefully by this weekend, basically everything except for Evil Beakers, saving Saba Jade, and that whole storyline, Annabelle's Curse, will be available on the YouTube DDOCast or DDO Unlimited YouTube page. So we're kind of trying to get that all organized so people can go back and listen to them and watch them and that kind of stuff. But this week is Even Notes group, Sunless Citadel. So you can join them. We do D&D night every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. We play pen and paper, Dungeons & Dragons on Fantasy Grounds, which is sponsoring the program, which is a virtual tabletop. It's really fantastic, actually. The only problems we've had with it is our inexperience in using it. So we're kind of like tooling around trying to get things to work. But it's a great program and really fantastic, especially for playing across state lines and stuff virtually, obviously. So really great program, really been fantastic. Fantasygrounds.com, you can check them out there. And again, don't forget to watch D&D Night on DDO stream, 7 p.m. Eastern every Sunday night. My group was last week, which we recorded, and it worked out just great, which is very nice.
How many did you kill?
Disappointingly, I have yet to actually kill anybody.
Holy cow!
I
Patrick,
know.
What are you going soft?
No. Well, I did realize, like, at the end of the last combat we did, that I could have like actually run people over with the fire elemental I had, which would have really been more fun and probably would have like that would have been would have changed things dramatically, I think.
Sure.
But I didn't realize I could do that until like the very end, and then it was dead. But I did kick their butts a little bit. However, they are somewhat learning that my penchant for, oh, you want to rest now? Too bad. You just rested. We're going some more. So, but it's been a lot of fun. And I hope people have been enjoying it. Some people in chat have actually said it's been really fun to watch. So that's D&D Kasplat, second Sundays of the month. Dido Kasplat is still going Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're working through Ravenloft, which has been a lot of fun. We are one quest into Chain 2 of Ravenloft, so it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll be continuing that. All right, lightning post. I had a bunch of people kind of write in regarding the last couple of shows. I didn't ask the damsels to do the lightning post, but so from 2 weeks ago, Fuzzy Duck wrote in and said a bacon weapon cosmetic could work. Probably the easiest version to implement would be a recolored version of the First Blood. It said, personally, though, he'd prefer the frying pan the chief uses in Siegebreaker. Ideally with a humorous bong sound effect on Vorpal.
That would be cool.
Yeah, would be good. I always wanted the anchor. There's a, I think it's in Three Barrel Cove somewhere. There's an ogre that has an anchor as a weapon.
Oh.
That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
Also, the Lord of Blades has a really cool staff. Although, really, more with Lord of Blades, I still want to be able to wear, like, I still want just a general docent, not that a non-Blade Forge can wear of that. That's kind of what I really
his the style,
armor,
yeah.
Yeah. because
A
still,
cool cosmetic would be good.
I mean, you can get it if you're blade forged,
Right.
but if you're not blade forged, you don't get it. It's blade forged restricted, which is unfortunate. Anyways, so bypassing spell resistance is totally valuable on a melee caster. Not for everyone, admittedly, but there's a few notable spells that don't have saves but are still subject to spell resistance, such as Otto's Irresistible Dance or Waves of Exhaustion. Power word spells. Yes, that's true. I think we were kind of trying to say more about spell resistance as a melee build is you tend to be juggling too many things, and it's spell resistance and DCs when it comes to casting. It's pretty much all or nothing because it's so binary, right? It's pass or fail.
That's right. Yes, no.
So it's not that it's not valuable. It's just hard to do. I think it was really what we were trying to get at there. But yes, absolutely. There have been times where my sorcerer became the crowd controller and lived and died. The party lived and died based on my ability to resistible dance things. So it's a great spell. I love that spell.
It is, but you got to get like right up on the monster to do it.
That is the trick.
Yeah.
Fuzzy continues. He says he's a big fan of the already past lives. The extra UMD is really useful since each +1 is 5% more success chance. And it's great to have a buffer in case of negative levels or death penalties. Yeah, good point.
Sure.
Barbarian past life isn't essential, but hit points are always nice. And of course, the value obviously increases when you get to percent grant to hit points. The active past life never gave more hit points than taking another toughness, which would be 23 at 20, but its advantage back in the day was that its hit point boost was front-loaded rather than scaling. It's true. It'd be a good way to kind of play the game a little bit. Cleric past life feat is nice. Conjuration includes web and acid spells, including the new acid well. Remember, that's one that's fortitude, not reflex, so it's unevadable AoE damage. That's a good point. Glitter Dust for a low-level persistent AoE that can blind things, tentacles, and comet fall. Glitter Dust, very handy when you're fighting eyeballs.
Sure.
The great thing.
Kill them instantly.
Turn Undead is useful in places, so counting as 6 to 10 levels higher is pretty phenomenal in heroics. Yeah, absolutely. You'll probably hit a point where it kind of tails off, but he continued on last week about Druid Past Life can be especially useful in heroics, more durable hirelings. Good point. He said with the we were talking about what's the Flame Blade spell, right? That conjures.
Yeah.
So he said it can be fun for monks because they can be centered, but it's a scimitar which monks aren't inherently proficient with, which is true. Although I guess if you're taking the active past life feat, then you might use it. But if you're a druid and a monk splash, you're probably proficient with scimitars at that point. He said they should change to a moonblade so they can be light damage. It'd be fun to have
that'd be nice.
A higher level spell or something. Moonblade, that can be fun.
Sure. Moonblade, yeah, that'd be a good spell.
Yeah. He said favorite soul passive is nice for anyone that uses spells, but active is pretty worthless. He'd like it to be replaced with a 3 per rest wings, which would be kind of fun. I like this idea.
Sure.
Would definitely be better. Fighter passive DC boost always handy. It's particularly good for falconry or assassin builds. I don't think they increase assassinate, but I could be wrong on that. I don't think tactics are initially equate to assassinate, but I'm not sure.
No, the tactics do not increase your assassinate skill. You have to have something that says
assassinate
helps your assassinate. Yeah.
However, the active one can be good situationally, as Strimtom pointed out. The extra benefit of a full base attack bonus is more PRR from your armor. Yeah.
Yep.
Something that I always read about that. So. He said the only time you can see someone taking the monk active past life feat is on a non-monk. Although really, if you're a monk, why would you take it? Because you have evasion already. Is an int-based caster with insightful reflex, but the 1 per rest nature makes it far too limited. Yeah.
The monk one used to be better. If you would take it, it would actually give you do more. It would increase the die step of your attacks, but that doesn't do that anymore.
He did point out that the +1 damage or damage thing you can get a ×9 multiplier for criticals. Woohoo! It's
Big
still only
number.
plus 18 damage, still it's huge in the scheme of things. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we started saying in part 2 or part 3, but we kind of talked about how it's a game of plus ones, right? So, said Paladin passive heal lamp is always great. It's pretty much for everyone. And then Ranger, the active one is rubbish because the spell is terrible and doesn't scale well. But he does point out that he's got 3 Ranger and 2 Monk lives on a character that's currently running as an Artificer. So it's plus 8 damage to each of 3 shots in a volley for a crossbow. Yeehaw.
Nice.
Yes. Let's see. Grandern Mod also wrote in, said, thanks for the close look at heroic past lives. He felt like in previous episodes we kind of wrote off heroic past lives as useless for the most part. That wasn't our intent. I think we were trying to go for the idea of they are less ubiquitously useful and lower or generally less good than racial past lives. I think that's kind of what
sure.
we're trying to get at. Not to say that they're useless, just that many builds don't, like a lot of builds don't need more spell points or spell penetration. That's kind of what we're trying to get at. So there's very useful lives for certain builds. It's true that for one specific build, a majority of the heroic past lives will not be very useful, but the ones that are can be seen as must-haves. Yeah, that's kind of what we're going for. So
sure.
he has 4 characters.
Yeah, that increases DC.
Yes,
like the wizard past life and that sort of thing. Yeah, you got to have those.
He's got 4 characters he works on, which is focused on the 4 classic D&D archetypes for a while now. He's had a list of past lives to help each in a specific way. He's a general type of divine build in mind to look at a variety of sources to augment his build types, but he's not set up the same lists for the other 3 characters. Yeah, careful about making lists about reincarnation lives and past lives. It becomes daunting. Anyways, on average, he does 1 TR a month, so 3 lives a year per character, so he's still got a lot of work. Yeah, there you go.
Jeez. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Doing that many lives?
Yeah, I just...
I mean, if you can cruise through them, it's something to do.
I don't even have a damn completionist.
I don't either. So. But, yeah. I agree. It's pretty well documented at this point that reincarnation is not my favorite part of the game. I tend to try to mostly avoid it. Having said that, I mean, the racial lives are really nice, and I've got the reason why I've been doing my monk a lot. I really like playing my monk, and having 6 more racial action points frees me up to put some action points somewhere else that would be really beneficial. So
sure.
Same with my tank. My tank could really use a bunch of past lives and some stuff. So, because there's, I will say of all of the builds I've done, there are 2 builds that I have found that it's really noticeable when I compare my character to someone else who has a ton of past lives. One is my DC caster, who just does not have doesn't have anywhere near the number of past lives he really needs to be successful as a DC caster. The other one is my tank. There's a whole lot of power left on the table for a tank being survivable and that kind of a thing. There's a whole lot of stuff left on the table there that can elevate, especially in a guild that's trying to push the envelope on how many skulls we can do killing time and other things.
Yep.
So, I mean, those are the 2 places I found that really kind of start to say past life. This is where past lives really start to amplify. My other builds, I don't really notice it that much. Not having the extra hit points or whatever. It might be a little bit lower than other people, but my character. Now, having said that, I could probably stand to play a few less melee glass cannon builds, which I have a penchant for playing apparently. But there you go.
Yep.
So
I'm with you.
Yeah. When's your tank gonna get built, huh? I guess you do have. You do have one.
I do. It's my paladin, and he's got over 3. Well, I've got 2 tanks. I got my paladin, which is just over 3,000 hit points, and then my my new artificer wizard fighter, and he's also got over 3,000 hit points. But I
Yeah,
just, you know, I just
it's a lot of past lives.
it's a
Not
lot
looking
of
forward to
past
it.
lives I still need, and it's a lot of Reaper points that I would need to get, you know, like in the
Sure.
4 to 5,000 hit point range. I mean, I just don't think that'll ever happen for me.
The Reaper points come faster than you think. I always have to tell myself a little bit to not worry too much about them. So, anyways, Reaper wings would be fun. Not gonna lie.
Mm.
So, anyways, let's close out the show. Anything you want to plug before we head out here?
Nope, I'm done.
Great. So thanks to Arkat for joining me. Thanks to all the contributors for DDOCast. It's a great group of folks that make this happen. And I just want to shout out too for thanks to the Damsels for hosting last week. Thanks to those who play in the DDO Splat group and the D&D Splat group and make that really enjoyable for everyone. So thanks to all of those. I don't thank them often enough. Thanks to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast and to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us, ddocast@gmail.com. You can hit us up at ddocast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of this show, you have a comment on the episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us discuss. I always love getting topic ideas. Don't get very many of them, but I love them because it's really helpful to have when planning the show. Or hey, you just want to say hi. You can leave a comment or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates at DDOCast on Twitter is the best. So stay tuned. We will have part 3 of our Heroic Lives part. We also today have a new segment submission from Grandern with Welcome to Korthos.
Greetings from Korthos. Hope everyone had a good holiday and are getting through the winter months all right. Looking back, it has been over a year I've been submitting episodes on DDOcast. The episodes have not been as frequent as I had initially hoped, but to give it a positive spin, I guess I'm just really savoring my little additions to the podcast. As far as gameplay has been, I had a chance to get some solid sessions in with the holidays and with a break from work. I did get a chance to participate in the Shroudapalooza event with Bonnie Bew and Even Note on the Orion server visit. Great to play and be able to join in what they're doing. Cool that SSG kicked in some solid some point codes as well. Thanks to everyone for passing their shards. During the runs, I was able to make a couple of nice heroic green steel items out of what I ended up with. Besides that, I have some pleasantly surprising news to those longtime listeners of DDOcast. Sig and Anne, who emceed episodes 200 to 300, have made a move out to Tokyo, in fact. I was super excited when I found out about that, and we've had a couple chances now to partake in some local geekery and are looking into setting up a little tabletop play as well. Now, let's finish off the list of most commonly asked questions asked by new players in Korthos chat. I'll begin with a quick recap of the first half of the result list. Last time we started with outlier questions, which went from 1 to 8 out of the total 207 questions asked in chat over the 2-month period when Orion was the default server, and a majority of new players were logging in to check the game out there. Questions such as use of gems, elite openers for quests, how to swim, pet access, and making cloaks visible are all valid queries, but looking at the total, they make up only 1% or less amongst all questions. More commonly asked questions were those about how to deal with hotbars and clickies, trainer locations, and concerns navigating sunny and snowy Korthos. Some of these questions could be categorized as the more rare variety, The ones asked with more frequency show areas that could be addressed in some way down the road. Even as outlier questions, however, these are all things on people's mind as they first access the game. So for each person that asks the questions, there may be 10 others who don't bother putting their concerns to words, are too shy, or don't think they would ever get an answer with a question posed to chat. I will now move from the 5% point range to the maximum 38% range. 11 questions out of the 207 I totaled dealt with leveling. I need to level up. What are action points? And what rank should I level up? Next was an interesting one. 12 questions out of the total were what I'm going to call I'm new, help. These pleas for assistance came in various forms. For example, help me. Can someone help me, please? I'm so effed. What am I supposed to do? Please talk to me. I'm lonely. Help a poor rogue. I'm dead. Raise me. I found these echoing pleas from the relatively shallow puddles of the Korthos dungeons as kind of amusing in a schadenfreude sort of way. Maybe this says more about me than anything. Similarly, at 12 questions, we had what I will call game techniques. Anything from basic actions to the first hints of players looking for techniques on how to get good at the game. How do I heal? How do I get gold? How do I get loot from monsters? How do you resurrect someone? We're on the more fundamental play side of things. From there, hints at picking up gameplay techniques were what's better for an assassin, a dagger or a longsword, is an axe a good weapon for a fighter, how do crits work, how do I find that last slayer. A very intriguing group of questions at 12 again, or 6% of the total questions, were language related. I noticed a good number of people who would pop in, ask a question in another language, and see if they would get any response. I am Brazilian, anyone from Brazil, written in English. Alguém do Brasil, asking a similar question in Portuguese. Ci sono italiani, for someone looking for Italian speakers in Italian. I'll go into more regarding languages in the next episode, but suffice it to say that, especially on the default server, there's a good number of people working through character setup, getting to Korthos, and then asking a question in their language to see what kind of response they will get. Now, for the final 3 question categories. The third most common question, at 14 out of 207, or just under 7% of all queries during the period of analysis, were what I call game mechanics related questions. How can I see my abilities? Where are the enhancement trees? How do I check favor? Can the UI be resized for 4K screens? Resetting rares, turning off narrator speech, XP totals, maximum numbers of coins that can be carried, these nuts and bolts of gameplay type questions were the third most common query. All valid and important, questions you'd expect of people learning a new game, and most of which can be answered through the DDO wiki or joining a guild. The second most common question at 16 were the locations of NPCs or amenities. Where is Ingrid Bowerson? Amalgam, or Balder the Bold, or where is Ursa, in all caps? Where is a mailbox, or is there a bank? These two are understandable questions, and a common issue that we all deal with. Where is the quest opener, and how do we manage opening quests? Where do we turn in quests? Missing turn-ins or delays in being able to find quest givers is one of the more tedious sides of DDO that, considering how much of an issue they are for new players, could do with another look. I mean, I still get lost with who the heck to talk to in some of the chains myself. Finally, drum roll please, the question that was asked by far the most, with a number of 76 out of 207 questions, or nearly 37%, were from players looking for groups. A great amount of time was spent with the greeter character with directing people to the social panel and LFG tab. Common questions were, can someone help me with redemption or sacrifices or insert quest here? Anyone up for power leveling on Snowy Side? LFG elite runs? Anyone want to team? Anyone have something I can do? Some of these questions may have been from experienced players conditioned to the fact that new players don't know how to get to the LFG panel. By talking to players directly, however, I could see that off the top, new players have great difficulty in figuring out how to join or make a party. One remedy to bridging the gap in getting new players to group could be to have experienced players help new players in finding groups. There must be a way, however, through the UI or some other form, to help move new players to successfully group beyond what we have at the moment. Now, going through this data in a podcast is a little tough to manage as it is a bunch of numbers, so I'll be sure to add the totals to the Korthos greeter thread on the DDO forums. Keep in mind also that these groupings are fairly arbitrary. I could have added the 5 questions for trainer locations with the 16 questions from NPC locations for a total of 21 dealing with all NPCs. My thinking here was that there was a pretty big number of people asking specifically for trainers, so they deserved their own category. Similarly, I could have combined the 6 questions for game specifics with the 12 for game mechanics and 14 for game techniques for a total of 32 questions, which I could have titled gameplay or something. Even if I did, however, this would still not reach half of the total numbers of people who were asking for groups or LFMs. There are a lot of questions which can be broken down in many ways, but by far the greatest number of questions were from people looking for groups in chat and not effectively using the LFM panel UI. Using the UI becomes second nature for the regular player, but clearly there are some parts that could be more intuitive. On a community level, getting new players into guilds or participating in chat channels are some ways to help new players learn the game basics. As it stands right now, however, new players may spend a day or two or more not knowing how to even form a group. So that's it for the big data dump. I hope you found it of some interest, be you a developer or dedicated DDOcast listener. Lead to easier ways in getting new players up to speed with gameplay. Next up, we will take a closer look at languages. Until then, take care.
All right, we are back. We're continuing our series on past life prioritization, part 3. A little recap of kind of where we've been. We have talked about past lives kind of as a big picture of kind of the different types of past lives you can get. This should finish our series on heroic lives. We're really kind of going, diving down deep into what the different heroic past lives have to offer. Joining me again this week, we have Nimvind.
Hello.
We got Voodoo.
Are you surprised about who I am?
Oh my
Join
goodness.
the dark
Hey, everyone.
side.
Oh dear, it's getting off the rails now. And we've also got Strimtom with us.
Hey.
And we need to
What's
rethink
up?
this strategy of recording the whole topic in one go and splicing it up. Anyways, welcome back. Let's see. We've talked about a lot of them. We get to we're starting with Rogue this time. The passive for Past Life Rogue is +2 to saves versus traps, and +1 to damage when sneak attacking. And then the active feat is you get +1 to all skills, and 3 times per rest you can skulk with the skill of your past, gaining bonus to hide equal to your level to your hide and move silent skills, +1 bonus to sneak attack damage for every 2 character levels, and a +1 to hit with sneak attack for every 4 levels. It's 1 minute per use. So there you go. What do you guys think about this one?
Well, every +1 matters for sneak attack. You can't get away from the +1, and the active is pretty much used by most endgame melee characters just because of the extremely high amount of additional damage it gives you. It's very, very powerful. So if you are looking to invest and become an endgame damage character, I would consider thinking about it. Taking that feat because of just the amount of additional sneak attack damage it gives you in such a short period of time.
And you're talking about leveraging this with the legendary feat, which gives you damage for hide, right?
That and yeah, exactly. Leveraging it with the damage that you get from hide, because it's an extra 10 sneak attack damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with his sentiments too. I feel like if you're gonna want a feat that will add burst damage, and you have the feat to take this, it's a no-brainer. It adds a lot of damage for the time that it lasts, and yeah, so it's a good one to choose if you can fit it in. It's definitely one to look at comparative to a lot of feats. I would take this over power critical, that's for sure.
Sure. What about the passive?
I feel like especially in heroics and possibly even in endgame, if you're a tune that always gets one-shotted by traps, a +6 to your saves versus traps might help you. That is like a good chunk towards the next increment. You know what I mean? Like if you're at let's say 84 reflex save at endgame, and you need a 90 would actually help you way more than an 84.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever intentionally taken a rogue past life. Granted, I haven't tried to leverage that feat because the classes I have don't tend to take the builds I have don't tend to take the hide to damage attribute. Usually going in a different direction. But yeah, the passive always felt really underwhelming to me. You can get +3 damage if you're sneak attacking. But if you're going for that, why don't you just do the monk lives instead? Because then you can always have the +1 to damage. And I don't know, the saves versus traps. I tend to find that, and maybe it's just my poor building skills. +6 to DCs or to saves tends not to make or break where I'm at by the time I get to about level 18, 20. But all right, sorcerer. Let's see, past life sorcerer. You get +1 DCs to your evocation spells, +20 additional spell points, and then for the active feat, you can get your maximum spell points are increased by 10 at first level, and then 5 spell points for each additional level. And you can produce a random elemental damage spell 10 times per rest. It's 1d12 of a random elemental type plus an additional 1d12 per 3 caster levels on impact, with a reflex save to have the damage. What do you guys think about this one?
This one is awesome. Can't say enough good things about it. It is a really high priority spellcastery kind of a
Active or
past life.
passive?
Oh, I'm sorry, the passive.
Sure.
The active, if you really want some extra spell points, but the 10 shots are lackluster.
Yeah, they
I
are.
think.
Yeah, the way I think about this one is basically, if you think about good spells, they're almost always evocation spells. You got Earthquake, most of the damage spells, Implosion, all the leveling damage spells. Are you playing Artificer? Are you playing Druid? Are you playing Cleric? Are you playing Sorcerer? Wizard? Doesn't matter. Evocation. Burst of Glacial Wrath is evocation. There's so many good evocation things. The +2 DCs if you're playing any type of spellcaster, you're always going to benefit from this, pretty much all the time.
I third all that.
It's definitely one of the better ones you can get. I think
It affects rune arms.
Yeah, it does.
Dragon
sure.
Breath.
My
Dragon
solution
Breath.
my solution to rune arms that have saves is to use a rune arm that doesn't have a save. But that's just me. Anyways, yeah,
Warlock Eldritch Blast.
sure. Although that's only for the pack damage, right? Like the normal
Yep,
damage.
just
is,
pack damage.
Yeah.
Only the
But yeah, and I really want to emphasize something Strimtom said. Is he said implosion. A lot of newer players mistake implosion for being like a necromancy spell because it's like an insta kill effect, but that is actually an evocation spell. So +3 to that, it's huge. You know, sound burst, huge. Earthquake, huge. This is a really, really high priority. And like I was saying earlier, if you couple it up with, 3 of these with your 3 favorite Soul Pass lives, you're starting out of the gate with an extra 120 spell points.
Yeah.
And that's significant, when you're starting out and through heroics.
It's a couple extra spells at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're using the new bolty spells, are like 2 spell points or something stupidly cheap. So that's a lot of those. Yeah, I think the active feat, I don't know why you would take that. I think you'd probably get better bang for your buck taking the generic mental toughness spell or feats for spell points. But all right, we got next up.
But this one has pew pew.
Hey, at least
Yeah.
it's better than the favored soul one.
It's true.
You get mana.
You get something besides the lousy damage thing. All right, Warlocks. The passive for Warlocks is +3 MRR. Something that most everyone can use. The active is you get +3 to your spellcraft skill, and you can confuse an enemy for 12 seconds with no saving throw that can be used 10 times per rest. That actually feels to me like I haven't ever played with it, but that actually feels to be like a pretty sneaky, good active feat. Like being able to, like you could just confuse one enemy out of the bunch just to kind of get them distracted before you move in. Especially, there's a lot of, I think some opportunities to leverage that for high skill Reapers. I don't know if I would actually take it for that specifically, but there's some application options there.
I completely hate the confusion thing in this game because I play with charmers, and when you charm a confused mob, they are tagged to attack allies, and you are now their allies, and you can't hit them, but they can hit you. So I dislike confusion. I try not to go. If someone's playing with confusion, go ahead, but I have a hatred for that function.
Yeah, I agree because I run with Nimvind and I
Sure.
see it happen all the time. And bugged charms or confused charms are really, really irritating.
I can see that. That's a fair point.
Passive though, everyone can use this. If you're gonna do heroic past lives, this is definitely one that's gonna help all your past life and DAvers in the future.
I'm gonna
It's really
challenge you on
hard to
this.
get MMR.
So MRR is great, but keep in mind what your MRR cap is. If you're wearing cloth or light armor, you have a cap to how much MRR you can get. So particularly like a clothy type build, you can only get 50 MRR. When you get into, we start looking at like the armors from Legendary Spine and Harness Royet and the Ravenloft stuff. I mean, there's I think like +52, +49 MRR in there. So you're basically done getting MRR. You're done getting MRR if you're using light armor or light cloth. So just kind of keep that in mind.
But if you're not capped with your MRR, this one's giant.
Yes.
And it's universal appeal.
+9 MRR.
MRR is one of those things that it's actually, for me, I find it hard to find things that boost your MRR, and it feels like there's so much more for PRR in this game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that MRR is actually one of those things where most of the items you want to use, especially at endgame, don't have it. You have to go out of your way to get it, whereas PRR is on most items. So I actually, the last 4 endgame characters I've made, I couldn't fit an MRR item onto the build, and I had to just go on mythics to get up to that 50 cap, which is nice. You can do that, but it's still very helpful to have that +9.
I know we're talking about heroic past lives, but I think it's worth mentioning that the deep gnome past life also gives +3 per stack, so you can get potentially +18 MRR from past lives, and that's really giant.
And you can get them both at the same time.
Yeah, it could be a deep gnome warlock. Take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Done. Yeah, and that's a great thing to leverage, especially I'd say like if you want to be tanky, both of those would be something to really go after. And especially
if you're a tank, you need this.
Yeah. And one thing I really want to point out with this is it's a little bit outside the scope of past lives, but if you look at the end game raids right now, particularly riding the storm out and killing time, they're very heavy on attacks and damage that, like environmental effects that MRR will lessen, but you don't get to evade, which is a problem for another time. But so getting more MRR is kind of a big thing. So really look for ways to, if you want to be really pushing those skull levels and being in high, there are more things in the game now than ever before that MRR will benefit you from, but you don't get the benefit of evasion or improved evasion from. So something to keep in mind.
Also keep in mind that MRR does not affect force damage or untyped damage.
Right.
So it doesn't help you when you get ruined.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do that, and I wish they advertised it more. There's a lot of things that are like magic resistance, and then they're like, okay, that works on magical things. Like, no, put in fine print, like in red letters in your character sheet. Does not protect you against the most scariest thing in the game right now.
Yeah, if the book in Legendary Shroud decides that you're going to die with a rune, you're going to die with a rune. Unless you're wearing Spell Absorb. All right, we got one more here, and then we'll kind of wrap everything up in a bow. Wizard. Passive.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. Probably, I think this is the best passive and active combination. Like,
hands down.
If for, again, it's a subsection of the population, you understand. Passive, +2 to spell penetration checks, +2 to the DC of wands you use. We're not talking about that. That's lousy. Don't worry about that. Although if you've got a DC wand build, let me know. I'm curious. This would be interesting.
I rock level 10 fireball wands.
Hey, at low levels, if you're using a little, level 1 wand of charm person, in low B quests, and you have +6 to that,
you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
You're right, I am.
The active feat is +1 to the DCs of spells you cast. That's all of them. All spells you cast. And you can cast Magic Missile spell 10 times per rest. It gets up to 10 missiles. So, where should we start? Passive, +2 spell penetration per past life. Yeehaw. If you want to be a DC caster, that's huge. Because that's +6 to spell pen right there. I think we've also there's another 3 from Favorite Soul available. That's all really, really, really helpful. But again, DCs, go big or go home. +1 to all spells.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're playing a DC caster that where your spells require spell penetration checks, this one is highest priority. +6 to spell pen. You couple that up with your 3 favorite soul past lives, that's 9 spell penetration from past lives, and that is giant.
Yep.
And +1 to all DCs. Spell DCs.
Yeah, the active is just universally good. Anytime you're playing as a spellcaster, if you have access to it, always take it. It's better than all the different spell focuses because it's all of the spell focuses. It's very powerful. And then +6 to spell penetration. So if you think about how past lives work, +6 to spell pen from wizard, +3 to spell pen from favorite soul. That's on a d20 because you have to roll to do your spell penetration check. So that's a 45% increased chance to overcome spell penetration. This is factored in by the people that make this game when they design monsters. So past lives, you don't need them to play at endgame. You can take that first life character at the time, get the gear, beat the monsters, do the quest. Unless you're a DC caster, then screw you. Get your Wizard Pass lives. Get your favorite Soul Pass lives, because you're not doing it without that.
At least for like the mod that has Spell Penny on them, like
Yeah,
Drow
exactly.
and so that. Drow, I think, tend to be kind of the hardest ones to get past. The other part about that with spell penetration is there's not a ton of sources for spell penetration. There's more than there used to be, but there's some items. There's a little bit. I'm trying to remember if there's much. I don't think there's much in enhancement trees, really. There's some in Epic Destinies and stuff, but you're right. I mean, the resolution on spell penetration is still really small. They changed how armor class works, because armor class also used to be on a die 20 variation. Spell penetration is still on a die 20 variation, so you don't have a lot of options. Like if you're not within 20 of beating their spell resistance, you can't. Period.
Yep.
So that can be a really hard thing to get around. There's a lot of quests in the game that are just drow and more drow and even more drow. And just for a change of pace, we'll throw in a demon that's got spell resistance too. So you can go through whole quests that if your spell penetration isn't high enough, if you're a one-trick pony DC caster, what are you gonna do for the whole quest? Which is part of the reason why I don't like one-trick ponies. But
can you even penetrate like Clay Golem and Will-O-Wisp's SR in this game right now?
I don't think so. There's other ways around it. It's possible. I don't know if anyone's tried it, but it's possible if you had some people using Shatter Mantle that maybe you could get there. But I think there's a little bit of an intent that maybe you're not supposed to be able to do that with some of them.
Yeah, the thing that you got to remember about this that kind of puts it all in perspective is that the best spell penetration item in the game you can get is +8.
Yeah.
Past lives give you +9.
Yep.
So that's huge.
Yeah. Clay golems are immune to magic, so I don't think it really matters with that specifically.
You can web them, I think.
Yeah, they just give them spell pen like 150 or something, so you can't get them.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so that's Wizard, one of the best in the game. I want to spend a little bit of time kind of wrapping everything up and kind of giving you a roadmap, as it were. There's a lot of things in here that you can leverage to increase your power, and we've mentioned some of them, like the monk active feat, spell penetration with wizard and sorcerer. There's a bunch of DCs in here that you can add to whether your tactics or caster. There is a lot of stuff in here that I think that you can get and will benefit your character, but you're probably not going to get. You don't need to get all of them. Is really kind of where I want to put. And again, like I would say, other than DC caster, you don't really need many past lives, many heroic past lives to be successful. There's power here that you can leverage and use to build your character better. If you're DC caster, sorry, the game is designed in a way that it pretty much forces you to get a lot of these past lives. At least if you want to be running really high-end stuff. If you're going to be running on normal and hard, you'll probably be fine, other than spell penetration. But anything else you guys want to say, kind of wrap it up here?
Did we want to talk about Completionist the feat? And is it worth it to take?
Hold that thought. We did a little bit. We'll talk about it more after we finish this little round of the room.
Just, and unless you're really neurotic, do not go triple heroic completionist, because there's just so many of these past lives that do not have really any value for a lot of builds.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you are really neurotic and you just feel like I have to have everything, well, then most of these you can put off to the very end, focus on your other past lives first. But like we said, there are some here that are really important for certain kinds of builds.
If you pick any build, you can find probably 2 or 3 classes that you can really benefit from.
I'm pretty the active feats, right? The ones you take do not triple stack, right?
No.
If you just need one
Correct.
go around, So like that there also will help probably influence you if there's like a feat that you want for your end build and you don't need to triple stack the bonus. These are the kind of feats where you really don't need to triple stack them if you don't really need to triple stack them. And there's just some feats where if you're building a DC caster, you definitely need to triple stack some of these. But I feel like there's paths you can take for certain builds, like a bow, crossbow, great crossbow, repeater, DC casters. There's definitely roads in heroic past lifing that you definitely should take a look into. But I feel, generally speaking, for anyone who doesn't follow in those categories, that these are just for fun. These are probably not really super needed by you. And check out Racial Completionist. It's it's where it's at.
Yeah. On that note, so we'll kind of put a couple of technical notes in here as well, and then we'll talk about completionist. The active feats you need to get to level 3. They all require level 3 to take, so you can't take them at level 1. And there was something else I was going to mention about heroic class, and I forgot what it was. So completionist, you have to take the feat. It costs you a feat slot. +2 stats, +2 skills. It does require you to take. You need to get a past life in each class in order to take it. What do you guys think? Take, not take, worth it, not worth it?
I think that this feat is pretty much almost always worth it to take if you have access to it, because it's almost impossible to find something that is the same thing. It's toughness, because it gives you an extra 30 health at level cap. It's +1 to all DCs, regardless of what you're casting, because of your stats. +2 to all skills, so it's better than any of the different skill feats. It's +1 to hit and damage based on whatever thing you're using. +1 to all saves. Unless there is something crazy you need to take, this is pretty much better than every other feat.
Fair.
It is I like it. I love the feat, but can't emphasize enough that unless you have that open feat slot, unless you intend to spend a feat on this, then do not go Heroic Completionist. If you have that extra feat slot, this is a great choice.
Sure. Yeah.
I kind of see it the way Voodoo does, but in a different perspective. I feel like unlocking it causes you to try to fit it in your builds. Like it's kind of a thorn in my side,
Fair.
but at the same time, it's a thorn that gives me +1 to all my TCs, an extra 30 hit points, and all that. But it's almost like a child. You have to plan your life around it, literally.
Nimvind, always good for at least one really great off the wall analogy per show.
I love it. Heroic completionist is like a child. That is it.
Oh,
One
the
for the record books.
The other technical thing I wanted to mention, it's definitely worth it to at least get 2 past lives of either racial or heroic. Why, you may ask? Well, because it puts you at a 34 and then a 36 point build.
Good point.
So that's when you're building your character and you're choosing your stats. You start as a 28 point build. That means you get 28 points to put in your stats. If you can unlock 32 point builds as a standard to start with, but you don't necessarily need to do. You'll probably get it. It's not hard to get 1750 favor on a server. But what you can do is once you reincarnate, you automatically, it doesn't matter if you're at 32 or 28, you go to 34 point builds and then 36 on your third life. You don't get any more than that, but 2 past lives can make a big difference in anyone's character. And we'll talk about racial past lives in the next iteration of this, but you'll want at least 2. Now, if you're only going to get 2 past lives to leverage that, I would recommend you look at heroic lives instead of racial lives, because the racial life power really kind of leverages in at the 3rd past life for each race, and you kind of just to stay in a lane to get that. Whereas this one, you can get 2 different ones and access, if you want to access the active feats, or there's a lot of different options there. So just kind of wanted to put that out there. Anything else you guys want to say before we close this up?
I think we pretty much did everything pretty
Yeah.
well.
I feel good
Yeah.
about it.
Right. Voodoo, tell us about your channel, your stream, and all that fun stuff.
Twitch channel Vooduspyce, YouTube channel Vooduspyce. That's Voodu Spice with a Y. You can find me and usually Nimvind live streaming just about every day at random times as we grind through our heroic or our racial lives. And the YouTube channel has over 750 videos with quest guides, raid guides, crafting tutorials, all kinds of great stuff for veteran players and new players alike.
Great. Nimvind.
Like Vooduspyce, or Lord Vooduspyce, as I call him, said. I'm on his live stream quite often, and some of his videos, not the Northwind series, but I also have a YouTube channel. It's Nimvind Dirge Dirge Singer, like Jerry Singer, or oh no, that's Springer. My bad. You can catch me not being tutorial because I decided I wanted to be a comedy channel, and have fun with Nimvind at Nimvind Dirge Singer.
And I would be amiss if we didn't mention High Lords of Malkir are doing teaching raids.
How did I forget? If you're on Saralona, if you're new to raids, we every Saturday through the winter and spring we're doing teaching raids for people who are raid newbies, or even if it doesn't matter if you're new to the game or you're a veteran player who's been playing since beta and you just never got into the raiding scene. Like, these are like events where I get about 5-6 of my guildies and then 5 or 6 newbies, and it's a nice low stress learning environment. We walk you through the entire raid, teach you how to be successful in raids, and show you that raids can be that you can understand raids, and that raids can be smooth, and most importantly, raids can be fun.
And you can find out more about the information on the forums, the Sarlona forums. You can kind of check out what the next raid is each week and that kind of stuff.
That is correct. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And Strimtom, what do you got going on with your stream?
Well, you can catch me every single Monday from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time when I do my live stream. Sometimes I stream, other times you never know. Pretty random, so you can follow me on Twitter and stuff. Same thing, at Strimtom. I was lucky enough to have a unique enough name to just be at Strimtom everywhere, which is kind of cool. The only other thing I'm currently working on right now is I'm doing a weird comprehensive XP chart where I'm doing every single quest in the game on currently on Reaper 1 because it's just the best XP difficulty, and I'm tabulating everything by XP per second, determining which quests are better or worse than the average and what you should and shouldn't be doing, to give everyone a very concrete understanding of what quests you should be doing, what quests you shouldn't be doing. It's interesting so far. I've learned a couple of things, I'll say that for sure. But yeah, so it's pretty fun. So if you want to check that out, you can find that on my Discord channel, the link to the charts there.
I can't wait to see.
I want to see that.
I can't wait to see how bad some of those quests are, like Proof is in the Poison and.
Oh, Proof is in the Poison is pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
A lot of the quests I like running actually end up being terrible. Like Stormcleave is like one of the worst quests you can run for XP, but it's like classic, but it gives like no XP.
Sure. All right, so thanks for listening. Thanks again to my guests here for recording all this out. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website. If you'd like to find us on social media and follow us for latest cast updates, at DDOCast on Twitter. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can leave a comment or you can email us, ddocast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your tests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.